part man, part machine, all cop, the future of law enforcement, Peter Weller and Nancy Allen.
Charging my iPhone.
He didn't have a charger, I did, so he still needs me.
Lewis saves the day once again. They don't fix anything, Lewis.
Thanks very much for coming to Dragoncon and the American Sci-Fi Classics track. We really appreciate having you here today. Why don't we start off with your earliest participation in the films? How did you guys get involved with RoboCop?
Go ahead.
Well, I was sent the script by my agent and told that Paul Verhoeven was going to direct it, and I really loved his movies, and I saw the script, and I saw RoboCop, so I called my agent, I said, they're changing the title, right? And I thought, well, okay, I'll read a few pages, this is probably stupid, and I literally could not stop reading the script, and I finished it, and I thought, I don't know what I have to do, but I have to make this movie. So, went over, I met Paul, I read, there's a whole group of people there, I read with Paul, and one funny story is that he said, oh, you know, I'd like you to do whatever it was, and he was actually reading with me in it, and he said, I'd like you to do X, Y, and Z with this character. I said, well, let me think about it, and I went out, and I came back, and I did what I thought he asked, and I said, is that what you wanted? He said, no, but that was very interesting. That was my beginning of being involved.
I felt the same way as Nancy. As a matter of fact, my agent, it was my agent until he retired a couple of years ago, said there is a film with a really stupid title. And called RoboCop. I said, yeah, man, that is a stupid title. You know, just so corny and on the nose. And they said, well, it's being directed by this guy, Paul Verhoeven. And I'd seen all of Paul's movies, and I knew that he was serious and invested and unique filmmaker. I'd seen Soldier Born, The Fourth Man, Sputters. And I said, no, man, this is probably going to be great. I read it, and like Nancy, I thought, this is funny and sad, and, you know, staggeringly sad. If you really look at the film, it's really sad. It's not by, it's a film about redemption, but it's not by any means happy. And I said, oh, this is gifted. And then Paul wanted me to audition. I'm very bad at auditioning. I've auditioned a couple times. I've gotten one thing that I ever auditioned for. I'm sort of dyslexic. I don't read in phrases. You know, I read word by word. So I refused to audition for him. And the agency kept saying, you have to audition for him. I said, listen, if I audition for him, you know, I'm certain to never get this. I'm certain to, I mean, it will be a reading more robotical than the character. But he said, okay, well, finally he said, okay, would you move around the room? And I'd taken some mime, and there was a runner and so forth, so he knew he had some semblance of an athlete with it. But the funny story about it is that unless you got paid a fortune, you know, I got paid virtually no bucks for that.
We were paid nothing.
Yeah, we were paid.
And we were happy.
Yeah, we were happy, and we were happy. And you know, it is not like Robert Mitchum said at the end of his career. You know, Robert Mitchum said he got past 40 and he finally just said how much and where. And at that time, you know, we were just looking for work. And I was happy to be offered to work. And while Paul was trying to make up his mind, I got this big hook from Dino De Laurentiis, the great Dino De Laurentiis, the first guy to ever sell to foreign markets, an amazing guy who later on, about 8 years later, I did a film for. And he set up that studio in Wilmington, North Carolina. I mean, all the shooting, sadly, has now stopped because of the stupid repeal of the tax reform. But all the shooting in Wilmington, you know, is because of Dino. And Dino was making a remake, King Kong Lives or King Kong 2 or some crappy thing.
It was King Kong Lives, and it was crappy. Yeah.
So my agent said, hey, you know, Dino wants you for this movie. And I said, well, how do you guys make it off? He says, when Dino calls up and says he wants you, he never reneges. You know, the money is something he'll just throw at you. But I think we should meet Dino because he wants to meet today. I said, well, what's happening with the RoboCop thing? It's nice to be wanted by two people. It's always nice to be wanted, no matter where you are in your career. It's nice that somebody's offering you something. I said, well, what about the RoboCop thing? They said, you know, we're expecting an offer from Orion, but today or tomorrow, but we don't know. But I think we should meet Dino. I said, okay. And so I went to his office there on Wilshire Boulevard. You know, Dino's a small man with big energy. Anybody see me? You know what I'm talking about here? You all know who Dino is. God bless him. A legend. And a big guy, and a big personality, and like a child in the movies. And when I walk in, you know, it's like I knew him for 20 years. He acted like I'd never met him in my life. He goes, Peter Weller! Peter Weller! I said, nice to meet you. And I didn't speak in Italian then. I didn't even go there and didn't speak it. And he said, sit down. I said, yeah. And then he looked at me in the eye and said something I'll never forget. How much money you want not to do this stupid robot movie? One of the great quotes I have in my lifetime, man. And you know, when you're 37 years old and somebody says how much money you want, you start fantasizing, man. Lamborghinis, so I'm thinking price tags here. And I go, well, maybe a lot. And then we talked, and about 2 hours later, Verhoeven made the offer. But there was a great day. The memory of the day is especially marked by Dino. Saying how much money you want. Because I'm a whore like anybody else, man. I'm like, you ain't got money. What the hell is this robot movie, man? Whatever you want. But I ended up doing the robot movie. And thankfully meeting, and one of the great, the thing is about Nancy and I are born on the same day, although she doesn't look it, but she's 20 years older than I am. No, she's quite younger than me, as you can tell, and we're born on the same day, and it's a special day. Now, just to tie this all up, I'm shooting Under the Dome in Wilmington. I left the dome 2 months ago. And there's 2 actors, one of the female leads and this younger actor, and they're talking, I hear them talking, I just told Nancy this, I hear them talking about Nancy Allen, and on and on. I said, what are you guys saying about Nancy Allen? I said, Nancy Allen's born on our birthday. Nancy Allen's born on our birthday. You did RoboCop with her. I said, yeah. She's like a dear friend, and one of the great experiences I ever took away from making RoboCop was my friendship with Nancy. And by the way, it's the best thing you can take away from movies, the relationships. And if you're taking away any love, then you're, what's the point? Really. So I said, you might want to know that I was born on the same day as you. They went, no, you're lying. They go, what was it like when you and Nancy got your voice? I said, you're joining, June 24th is special day.
And something, a little trivia. So we're both born under the sign of Cancer. So is Paul Verhoeven.
That's right.
So is John Davison. So is the production designer. And the movie, Kurtwood Smith.
That's right.
Under Cancer. And the movie opened under the sign of Cancer.
That's right.
Very woo-woo.
Yeah, very woo. Very woo. But us cancers were all so happy about that. That we were all cancers, and the movie was a cancer.
Yeah.
And we started shooting under the sign of Cancer. So
That's right. We did.
Clearly it was meant to be. Nancy, I wanted to ask you about your part. Ann Lewis was kind of a different thing than you had been doing in some of your other pictures, Carrie and Blowout and Dress to Kill. It was essentially, it might as well have been a man. It was a sexist part. There was no romance, anything like that. How is it? Is that what drew you to the part? Or?
Well, of course, like we said, I just love the script, never read anything like it, and I felt connected to the character. My father was a cop for 30 years in New York, so I felt like, I know what the cops are, I get this. And I really, the way it was, there's kind of a different vibe about it because it was supposed to be very futuristic, and actually in the script it said, and she takes off her hat, her helmet, and her hair cascades to her bridge. Obviously. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Anyway, but it changed. So, I desperately wanted to do it. mean, because I felt drawn to the piece, drawn to that character, their relationship, partners, because I'd heard my father talk about his partner, and, but you know, that's the kind of role when you, especially then, in those days, when you played X kind of role, they had a really hard time separating you out from that and seeing you, but I'm very fortunate that I was given that chance.
Right. In fact, Stephanie Zimbalist was going to play it
Yes,
first, right?
she was, and
She
I
was.
remember when I heard they said you didn't get it, she
Stephanie
got
Zimbalist
it.
Jr., as I like to call her.
Yes,
But
I
it's
said-
Zimbalist without Jr.
I said, that's not right, this is my part, how this happened? Well, it all worked out.
Yeah, absolutely. RoboCop was Paul Verhoeven's first English language film, and I know that he.
No, what was the Rutger Hauer movie with Michelle Pfeiffer before that?
Lady Hawk?
Yeah. What is it? Lady Hawk,
But
yeah.
this was.
I think this was his first film made in the United States.
Maybe it was made in the
Yeah.
United States, that's what it was.
Yeah, Flesh and Blood, Rutger Hauer. Have you all been to the movies? Michelle Pfeiffer, Rutger Hauer movie was an American movie, but not made in the States.
I see, okay. My misunderstanding.
Yeah.
How is it working with someone who is not quite used to the Hollywood system?
We were just talking about that.
Many would know still.
Yeah.
Well, good timing.
He was, he is a gifted guy, man. I mean, he's nuts on a film
Mad
set.
genius.
Yeah,
right?
mad genius. I mean, he's one of the most pleasurable and intelligent people you want to have dinner with. And on a film set, he goes a million miles an hour. And he's constant thing. Paul McCrane does the best imitations. Everybody was doing Paul imitations, but Paul McCrane could do the ones, And you go, why aren't we shooting? And so I'll say that sometimes as I direct a lot of television now, but he's a mad genius, yeah.
He, he would, we were really lucky because even though it was hideous, the lighting, it was fluorescence, they just had these banks of fluorescent lighting.
Yeah.
And then Jos Vacano, who had really set up his own mechanism for shooting, so you could, we could do it like a play, we could go anywhere and do anything once they set up the lights, so it was always in motion. You never really felt like there was a time when you were sitting around really waiting for something to happen, except that the first day they put him in the costume, but.
That was a long time.
But, Paul, there could be 1, 2, 10 people in a scene, and he would go, he'd act out every part, and he'd say, but don't copy me, I can't act.
Yeah, but don't do it like me. Yeah, I don't do it like me because you do it better, I can't act.
But he would find subtleties in things, in moments that I don't know, that would really make it special. You'd think you'd want to go big with something, but he'd bring it really small.
Yeah.
And it would be so much more depth to it that way.
Yeah.
But he being a European, he wasn't used to all the sound tech and
Yeah.
wiring and all of this, and we were shooting the scene when we were doing when I bring out the coffee and Peter's twirling the gun, and they had to wire us for sound.
Oh, I hated that.
He went crazy. He said, what is the sound people you're conspiring to ruin my movie?
Yeah, but he was, he said two things, Nancy and I, the movie had celebrated its, 25th anniversary?
Yeah.
25th, yeah, 3 years ago. And so I got a lot of requests to go introduce it. So I sort of made a list of 6 important places that I would introduce it, and that would be it. And I probably will never introduce it again, except if my kid wants to see it or Nancy asks me. But one of them was for Nancy's Cancer Foundation. Another one was for the UCLA, where it was written, cast and crew reunion. And another one was in Dallas for the location reunion. But in the UCLA thing, Paul said some really interesting things that I did not know. Like, I did not know that he really was pushing for a love connection between Murphy and Lewis, and wanted some sort of romance, because the film was lacking romance.
Yeah, he wanted a rewrite to that.
Yeah, that's right.
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that, and then he realized that once he saw that the relationship of Lewis and Murphy was almost one of, symbiosis in this fight against, corporate corruption, that a love relationship would have vilified it. smart guy. I mean, a really brilliant guy. And, he studied medieval history, and he infused the movie with, as brilliantly as it's written. And inclusive of us, the rest of the cast is also fantastic. As wonderful as it was Paul really that, like Nancy's saying, that finessed it, that made it something more, something thematically right. He knew that it was about the theft of personal identity, and really the guts of it. And he knew his action stuff. I mean, he could do action blindfolded, but he knew that at the core of it, it was a story of Lewis assisting a guy. I haven't seen the guy crucified. Is now like John the Evangelist, helping the dude be resurrected, or the Book of Job, or Egyptian mythology. He knows all that stuff. And he knows Egyptian mythology, he knows the Book of Job, he knows the Golem, he knows all the medieval tales of resurrection, and the Judeo-Christian ethic of resurrection. And he infused it with that. That's all he wanted to make was that story. And he said that, and it's like, I don't know if it was somebody, I don't know if it was anybody less than Paul that it would have been this profound a film.
Well, yeah, I mean, it could have been just a fantastic cartoon, and that would have been great, and it would have been fun. But I think because of his depth, it added the real soul.
The soul to it, yes. I think you're right. A cartoon's a good word. It could have been a very entertaining cartoon.
He pushed that a little bit. He had you walk on water in the last scenes, kind of.
Look, my arm is, my hand is blown off.
Right.
Get that. I walk on water. But it's not only that, the whole, I don't know if you guys know the Hebraic tale of Prague or the Golem, the community, the Jewish community conjures up entities to rid themselves of suppression, and then they gotta get rid of the thing. And the thing ain't going away. And a lot of it's that.
Right. Speaking of the thing that wouldn't go away, we have to kind of talk about the suits. And your journey from outside the suit to inside the suit and back again. How did that...
There's a lot of drama in this story. I was doing the Third World, the 3-box set, 2003 or something like that was being released. I flew to London to do some stuff, and a guy from, I don't know, Slovenia or something, I guess, said, you were fired on a Friday. Paul says, he called Metaboy, I wanted you fired. And I said, I knew we had a battle about the suit and about his fear of me. And Metaboy, Mike Metaboy, the head of studio, called him the dead of night with my agent, said, what can you do to heal this? Because Rahub is going over the deep end about you. And I said, okay, I'll heal it. But I didn't know that he fired me. And he already had another actor, I think it was Michael Bean, laying in wait to replace me. Yeah. So I confronted him about it, and he was, look, the suit, and I got all kinds of shit for saying this, but now I don't care, and I will tell you. Other people are paying my paycheck. A gifted guy named Rob Boutine, who has gone into reclusion, and I don't know how to get in touch with him. He only talks to 2 or 3 people with this thing. What is that, Newmeyer? Designed this beautiful suit and the makeup. The makeup was applied by Stefan Dupuis, who is a genius. Because to apply that third act, what they call the third act face, for Nancy and I have, look, everybody loves the scene in the house where I go back. My favorite scene is me and Nancy. When she's helping me take off the helmet, and I ask her about the family, it makes me weepy to think about the thing. I mean, now I got a family. It's just, I said, what happened to my family? She says, they moved on. And it's a killer. If anybody of you have ever lost family, that's the scene for me. Me and Nancy in that garage is like the guts of this, because that's when the guy goes, I've been heisted. In the name of progress, in the name of good, in the name of technology, the police force, whatever. Feed that all the way into, my buddy in New Orleans, I think that the United States ought to be the police force ever. In the name of whatever you think is politically right, that guy's been heisted. The identity's been ripped off. That's how profound that movie is, and that scene's the one for me.
Well, I love when you say in that scene, I can feel them, but I can't remember them. That,
Yeah.
for me, always gets me. You know, Peter was supposed to have the suit 2 weeks before
That's
we
right.
started shooting so that he could
And I did.
acclimate to it. And, well, we got it once we started shooting, and we sat there for about 10 hours.
It was 10 hours, yeah.
And I remember sitting there thinking, okay, so either one of two things is going to happen. Either we're going to be here for the next 2 years, or they're going to shut us down tomorrow.
And they wanted to
Because
shut us down.
there was no money. And when you think about it, I never heard such great stories from Paul and the producer. John Davison. So Paul wanted everything to look like, you know, really ultra modern and high-tech production design. So we had no money. And he said, well, you can have that, or you can have a really good suit. And he said, okay, I'll take the suit. But what he said was that you have to then really become very creative. You know, you don't have all the bells and whistles. You have to become very creative in how you're going to make it look really ultra modern. But when I will say this, that no one that I've ever met in my life, any actor that I've ever worked with, could have had exercised the kind of discipline that it would take not only to be in this horrific first suit that they put him in, it got better by the second one, but literally they put him in with a screwdriver, like a little thing, and to be able to do what he did in it, I mean, I was so grateful when they didn't make me over.
You know, on that note, just with Nancy, because I didn't realize, you know, Nancy's still not, you're still at the police station waiting for me to come in with the suit, but you know, the suit was late. And I said in a couple of interviews without chastising Robert at all, the suit was late. And I got a call about a month after the movie came out and it had been a hit. It said, Robert is very hurt that you're saying the suit was late. Because you're not, essentially what I wasn't doing was putting in the context of making a movie and things are delayed and money's delayed and, you know, technology is delayed and so forth. I just said the suit was late. And the suit was late, but it was absolutely no fault of Robert Dean. I mean, because Robert Dean was making what Paul wanted, and Paul was tweaking the suit, and we're already into production, and it's just the exigencies of making a film that the suit was behind. When the suit got there, I had designed with Moni Yakin. You know, you really got to notice, like they just said about 2 years ago, they let the world know that the guy who saved the Cuban Missile Crisis was actually a scientist on a nuclear sub. Anybody read this? You understand that there were 10 nuclear subs that the Russians had sent to Cuba. You got to Google this, man. No, there were 10 nuclear subs, and they had a triad of people on each nuclear sub. The captain of the ship, one of the Politburo guys, a politician, and a nuclear scientist on all of those subs. It had to be an agreement of all three to pull the trigger on a Pluton bomb in Miami if we were going to send something up. If there was any attack on us at all, that button was going to be pulled. But and some battleship, and I think it was the Illinois, was testing a depth charge. They knew the sub was there. Google this, it just came out in 2011. Putin let the world know about this dude. They were testing a depth charge, and it had a test, but it's no more than like a hand grenade exploding in that corner. And it exploded about 100 yards off the submarine and doing no damage, doing nothing. And immediately, this particular sub, and I forget what it was, wanted to pull the trigger. And thank God the nuclear physicist, who's now the hero, but said, no, I'm not pulling the trigger. And the other two guys did. And this has only been released in 2011. Amazing, huh? So the great unsung hero of RoboCop is really Moni Yakin, the guy who designed the movement. Because he designed, like what Nancy just said, Paul wanted something very futuristic, something very serpentine. You know, almost like Spider-Man, you know. So I was working for 6 months on this line that was very, very liquid and legato-like. And then this suit came, and we couldn't get it on. The inner suit was totally, I couldn't get it on. The inner suit was a wetsuit, and the outer suit, this is the first time that Rob Bottin and his team ever got to try it on me. And the meter was ticking. And it took 10 hours to put it on. And we were dead. So they shut the thing down and they said, okay, we've got to see what we can do over the weekend. So they called this meeting with me, Paul, John Davison, the Robo team, and thank God Bill Bernstein and Metaboy flew in Moni Yakin. And Moni Yakin was the only calm half Israeli, half French mime, studied with Jean-Louis Barrault, Marcel's buddies, the head of the Juilliard. Only calm voice. Because the first thing out of the thing is like, it took another 3 hours to put on a suit. And Paul the expression, I suppose we're fucked. I suppose we're fucked. And it was depressing to be around. And he was yelling at Rod's a very sensitive guy. He's yelling at everybody, and everybody's yelling at each other finally. And Moni was like a port in a storm. You know, Moni just said, he's just telling calmly, he says, okay, to Rob, with the wetsuit. You know, he finally they gave him the floor. So take out the elbows, take out the knees, take out anything where there's a hinge. Loosen up the wrists, loosen up the shoulders, loosen up They started cutting like crazy. And then I could move. And then he took me aside and said, we have to take everything we just learned and slow it down and really articulate. So I started working over the tournament and this feels so phony, man. It feels like bad opera. You know, it's gargantuan, stupid. He says, you have to do it. It's the only way this will work. I said, they don't think it's going to work. He said, don't pay attention to Paul Verhoeven. He's Dutch, and the Dutch are depressed. This from an Israeli man, from a Sephardic, the Mediterranean. And so we worked it. The long story short of it is that the suit was late. It was no fault of Raputin's. It was no fault of Paul's. We were about to shut down. And like Nancy said, I thought, this is going to take 2 years, man. This is going to be 2 years. And finally, at the end of the day, when we finished this thing, he shot these tests of me doing this and that and so forth. And Paul said, I don't think this is going to work. They're going to shut us down, blah, blah, blah. And Moni's amazing. He just said, they're not going to shut it down. They're going to see this and love this. It's a different thing. They're going to love it. But here's what we should do. We have to go rent a movie right now. This is Saturday afternoon. I said, okay, Eisenstein, Ivan the Terrible, silent movie. I said, really? He said, there's a man in it who's a dancer, opera singer of mine named Nikolai Cherkasov. He's going to see a naturalistic movie, and you're going to see a naturalistic movie with a very stylized actor, the lead. It's fantastic. So we get this thing, Ivan the Terrible. Anybody ever seen Ivan the Terrible? Yeah, you know the movie I'm talking about, Cherkasov. The first time you see him was like Dracula, for fuck's sake, man. You have these naturalistic people walking through these great shadows and stuff, and you see him, he's like that, right? And everything is that big. Everywhere he looks, it's staccato and huge. And for 5 minutes, you can't stand it. It's like hideous. Are you filming this? If you are, you gotta pay both of us 7 figures.
And I get 10%.
And that's it on that. So anyway, I watched this movie all weekend. I watched it all day Saturday, all day Sunday, and I watched it for a week. And Moni stayed with us for 2 weeks to work this movie into it. And subsequently, what I started to find was, you know how they say sometimes, like in the method, you know, Kazan, one of my mentors said, you know, the horse shit of the method is that you have to work from the inside out. That's not true. You can find things from the outside in. You can lift up a coffee cup and go, wow, that's how that guy would do that, and that will generate something within you. So it doesn't necessarily have to be all this internal personification. You can find something physically that will tell you who you are. You know, and this is a master. Yes, this is a master of what you call the method. He's founded the Actors Studio. And he's one of the great debunkers of the method, because the method has become too intellectual. It's become too procedural. And you can find stuff like with your blood's life, your experience day to day, that will tell you who this character is. You don't have to go in a hole to do sense memory and close your eyes and remember your birthday. You don't have to do that. That you can if it works for you. We can find it otherwise. And so as I was generating this stuff, and the first scene with Nancy, when I come in and Nancy's watching me in the office, is not very good because it was that night. And I didn't have the arms right, the shoulders right. I still shuddered that one. But once it started working, I started to feel something organic with this thing. I'm not kidding. I started to feel like lost, like an animal, not like a wild animal, but a lost, indescribable, organic thing, a thing with no identity. And that thing that Moni brought, because, and they say in Chinese, look, it's not bullshit. It's 4,000 years old on a wall. You know, crisis is the same word as opportunity. You know, that crisis generated something else. it generated a character at a time when we both thought that movie was going to go, it was impossible to do, something that rose out of that phoenix. It was marvelous. And like Nancy said to me yesterday, we were thinking of like the horror or the difficulty of making that movie. And there was nothing horrible about it really except the strident energy that took to make it. There's no
It was
big...
brutally hot, it was down.
Brutally hot,
It
yeah.
was, just so difficult.
But nobody died, and there weren't any big shutdowns, and the car didn't crash wrong, and all that stuff. It was just brutally hot and really trepidatious. But at the end of the day, the movie lives on, and it's a
Well,
stunner.
when you don't mind, when you're making something that you know is good, and you start to see some of the dailies and go, oh my God, this is incredible. And
Yeah.
I really could never have imagined that it would have the wide appeal that it had, but it infuses your energy and passion, and we had such a great team, but like Peter said, we're paid nothing. I've worked on movies where they paid you a bundle, and every day is excruciating because you know what you're doing is just gonna be awful. How many days left?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I've been on those. Yes, they pay you a fortune, and you're going, why am I here?
So we were really sorry to say goodbye to each other, all of us. It was just really
Yeah,
such
it
a
was
great
special.
team.
It was really neat. I felt the same way that Nancy did. I really knew I was making something, whether or not be marketed right or no, that's all in the hands of those people. But while we were doing it, I knew that, particularly what you said, about Yost. Did anybody see Das Boot? Yeah, so Yost, a lot of people think that RoboCop, all those beautiful hinging shots, the car going one way, people going the other way, people hinging into a room, is all Steadicam, but it's not. Yost devised and patented a gyro on the bottom of an Aeroflex 3. So it was a gyro, it was just a handheld camera, but it had a gyro in it to keep the head of it stable, so he could go wherever he wanted. And Das Boot, he is really running through that submarine. You know that? All those guys hinging through the thing, from one end to the other, he's running right after him with that camera. And so Paul would get that great stuff, and they lit it with this phenomenal, like Nancy said, it's like, I didn't know how he was lighting. They'd throw up these iridescent things, 4 of those, and just bleached out weird stuff, and it was phenomenal.
And just a little side note here, you heard about the suit and all of that, and as you probably noticed, Peter's not that complicated kind of a guy, but anyway, just to keep things interesting while we were doing this, in this horrible suit that was literally crippling his body, he was also training for the New York Marathon right away. He does not keep things simple.
Yes, and at the last second, Paul wanted to shoot on a Saturday. We were in Pittsburgh, and I was training for the New York Marathon. I was running like a lot of miles a week. And at the last second, Paul was saying, I think that we have to shoot on Saturday. And John Davison, bless his heart, said, that's the day that Weller asked 4 months ago for the New York Marathon. And he says, and Paul said, well, I don't know, we have to shoot. I don't think maybe you can run the marathon. And God bless John Davison, he said, Paul, his entire crew has made gifts for Peter to run the New York Marathon. If he does not run the New York Marathon, he will have rebellion. He has an entire crew behind me, and he goes, oh, okay, well, I think he should run.
I can remember coming back in the car with my driver one day. We were in Pennsylvania, and I was like, oh, there's Peter running along the side.
By abandoned
See me
steel.
to ride?
We're going to take some audience questions here in just a moment, so if you guys want to, we've got somebody with a roaming microphone that's going to come down one of these, and if you want to line up behind the microphone, we'll take questions. But before that, I write for SFX magazine a feature called Afterlife, which is 7 questions about your most famous characters, and I figured I would just do this with you guys. Real quick answers, 2 or 3 words at the most, okay? While they line up for the questions, would you guys like to play the roles again, Murphy and Lewis?
In a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Say Murphy, but not RoboCop, right?
Yeah, if you asked me this 10 years ago, I wouldn't, because the discipline that it took, just the preparation of it, was just sort of backbreaking. And after I finished it, because I was training for the New York Marathon, I was on a macrobiotic diet. I would run, like I said, 40, 50 miles a week. And getting into that suit was like I finally fell in love with it. By the way, the face at the end of it, took 6.5 hours just for the face. It's the single longest prosthetic piece still in this film.
It took 6.5 hours, and it only had about a 3-hour shelf life. And one day they kept
Right.
Peter sitting, and the face started melting, so he painted polka dots all over it. I picture of that.
That's right. And Paul, was told us that he didn't believe it. So the first time he put it on, it started melting. And then they said, Paul, you got to shoot this out. So listen, we got this suit down in an hour and a half. It took an hour and a half to put on the suit. It took 6.5 hours to do that face. I had to have 2 days off after that face because it took an hour and a half to take the face off. And after all, my face, after you took it off, no matter how delicate they took it off, my face was nothing but welts. So they couldn't shoot it again. So they have to wait 2 days. So it's 27 days for that face. So, plus 2 days down. And 6.5 hours for the face, another hour and a half, put the suit on. So I worked an 8-hour day. By the time the crew came, I would be going to work, man, when the crew would be coming in from drinking. Hey, have a good day in the chair, So I'd be in the chair from 2:30, 2:30 to, we start shooting 9 o'clock, by 12 o'clock it's done. But I would do that in a second, I don't know, but I just finished a PhD. I gotta say, PhD was the longest, hardest gig I've ever had.
Congratulations, Doctor.
After doing the PhD, when Nancy said in a heartbeat, I'd say in a heartbeat too, because the discipline it took to do the PhD reminded me of the discipline it took to do RoboCop. And, like George Bernard Shaw said, life is nothing but a series of inspired folly. The problem is to find them to do. And doing RoboCop, I do it again in a heartbeat, sure.
Awesome. Why don't we go ahead and take some questions from the audience?
Hi, first I want to say thank you guys for coming. I've been a die-hard fan of you guys ever since I was like 6 years old, and I'm in my 30s now. So, grew up watching the movie. The movie's fantastic, and he actually took part of my question, which was, would you guys play it again? I mean, I'm sure everyone in this room can agree that the 2014 remake is an abomination, and I refuse to watch it. I'm sure most people in this room refuse to watch it, but if Sony was going to bring the characters back, I think the best way to do it would be the 4-issue comic by Frank Miller of RoboCop versus Terminator. And I would love to see you reprise the role for that, but if you decided, that you weren't going to do it, would you choose someone else? Like, could you, if they said, Peter, who would you choose to play to fill the shoes that you've created of RoboCop, which is legendary? Who would you pick for that role?
Look, there's something to be said. There's something needs to be said about the remake of RoboCop. And here's the deal with this: when you see a film that lasts and lasts and lasts, that's anthropological, that you can pull up, 200 years, and you can bring the age of technology. What was it like in the beginning of the age of information? What was a cop movie like? And you wonder why it lasts. It doesn't last because of the heroism in it. It does not last because of that. And in all deference to, I just want to give the second RoboCop its due. I saw this interview with one of the great poets of my generation of the 20th century. A poet that my mother said is easily better than Carl Sandburg, if you take the first 10 years of his life. I saw the 60 Minutes interview with Bob Dylan. And if you take some of the songs of Bob Dylan from 62 to 72, something like that, I actually came in tied for first place reading 3 poems, one of which was a Bob Dylan song in 1967, which I said was anonymous, just so the academia wouldn't go, get the hell out of here because you're part of the pop culture. But Bob Dylan was asked, could I write that stuff? Could you write that now? Could you write Gates of Eden? Could you write My Back Pages? Could you write like a Rolling Stone now? And he goes, no, because now the things that were happening in the world aren't happening. It's a different time now. And he said it was generated out of a period. So you can't really compare the new RoboCop with the old RoboCop. If you look at the old RoboCop, it's a prescient film. It's about, forget your politics and the morality and the it's about corporate privatization. It's about trickle-down economics. It is about a social history. I've asked over and over again, I'm telling you, every time I sit down in front of a mic, did you foresee the problems with the third world and the WTO? Have you foreseen the West stealing the identity of the third world? Have you seen the rape of Shell oil in Nigeria? Did you know this while you're making it? Fuck no, I didn't make it. And I'm going, really? You got all that out of it? Verhoeven did. Verhoeven saw it. Verhoeven saw the whole thing, man. The individual is being raped and looted in the name of progress. And that was the beginning of that. That was the beginning of the age of information and the corporate, taking the cover off what was going on in 2009. You know, it's like, and I like money and I love America and I love corporate America. But I agree that if you don't regulate that stuff, money bastards like Dan O'Hurley will own everything, including street crime. And a lot of places they do, and they did in the United States. I lived in New York when they did. I lived in New York when corporate New York owned the cops and the street crime, and everything in between. So that's not happening for the second RoboCop. And that's happening for the first RoboCop, and that's in the movie. So when you see a movie, you go, why is this movie great? Because the last line, a guy who's lost his kid, his wife, his home, his identity, he can't even remember them, says Murphy. And that's what gets you. I promise you. It ain't shooting the girl in the crotch.
And the problem with Peter is he has no passion. When you have, I mean, there's certain things that you can make again and again and again. You can do Romeo and Juliet 5,000 times. There's certain things that are just classics. But when you have a film that is a piece of history, a moment in time, and when the character and the actor become so identified that you say the name of the actor and you go, RoboCop. Now, Peter's done a lot of great roles, but when there's that kind of connection between a role and an actor, like Clarence Boddicker, and I mean, all of those characters, you can't remake it. You can never remake it again and have it really work because it's interwoven with the actor. So
it's anybody seen Psycho lately? The Exorcist, right? Okay, those are considered now by the worldwide wire service of critics as two of the 6 most frightening movies ever, and they're regenerative frightening and brilliant. And Psycho comes out at a time when essentially the age of Freudian analysis is at a peak, and nobody understands really split personality and all that. So that guy wrote that book as a fusion of those methodologies and fictionalized it. Okay, everybody has ripped it off since. An axe murderer going in, out of his mind, who had a dream when he's a kid, blah, blah, blah. But Psycho, when you see Psycho, you go, I get it, man. This is indelible because it's a piece of methodology and social history that the world was just starting to examine. Same thing with The Exorcist. We really need to have a handle on ancient deities being infused in modern day religion. And that guy wrote that book, Blatty wrote the book. And can you believe this? The Exorcist is considered now the most frightening movie ever made by critics, whether it's your favorite film or not. Essentially, you get the Dell paperback, wire service of critics. It's the #1 frightening movie. Have you seen it lately?
Yes.
It's like watching a train wreck, man. If you look in the middle of it, you go, oh great, this is the party. You can't stop watching it. It's like Apocalypse Now, you can't stop watching it. So one of my mentors in the directing field is Billy Friedkin. And I always tap into Billy Friedkin, and I don't name drop his name, and the other is Mike Nichols, and they're both guys I go to that well all the time. And I had dinner with Friedkin on Wednesday, and I was just shooting the shit about The Exorcist. And I said, because my PhD is infused with pagan images that were taken on by Judeo-Christian ethic, and by the way, all religion starts in paganism. And he said, yeah, well, that's why I really wanted to make The Exorcist, because it is a Catholic trope, exorcism. But it comes from ancient standards of exorcism, going back to the Egyptians and Jews and even before that.
But the studio did not want the Iraq sequence. Anybody seen it lately? Anybody remember the Iraq sequence? The thing begins because they uncover the deity of the southwest wind called Pazuzu, which was the Baalite identification of Satan, the end of all, the beginning, the generator of all evil, and the end of the world, right? And the studio's saying, we don't want that. Get to the puke, you know, get to the girl and the puke and the crosses and the talking and all that shit. They didn't get it, like, honestly. And he goes, you know, he had to fight to get that in that movie. And he could write his own cards in. He won the Oscar for French Connection. But in that case, to wrap this into your context here, you know, like what Nancy said about infusion of an actor with a role, it's also the infusion of the role. And I think the movie with the time, with the period, with what's going on in the world. And you know, The Exorcist is happening at a time when everybody's fascinated by that. It's right on the heels of the Manson murders and occult practices.
The satanic panic.
Yeah, right, and all that stuff. And people are going, God, okay, we did the psychosomatic thing with Hitchcock. Now this is all religion. This is people seizing religion, you know, as evil. And so it's the zeitgeist is what I'm trying to say. And RoboCop's got a zeitgeist, and the second RoboCop doesn't. There you go.
There you go. So, to James
People pay a lot for these lectures when I give them.
Hello.
Is that Khalid again?
This is our friend Khalid.
Hi, Khalid.
We've known him for
Hello.
40 years.
Let's get a question out before we have to wrap up, Khalid.
Alright, I know RoboCop is the best sci-fi movie I've ever watched in my life. You guys are like the best movie duo ever. I've been watching RoboCop since when I was 5 years old. The first two. Alright, this is what I've been wanting to hear my whole life.
You've been watching it since you were 5?
Yes, I did.
Your parents should be shot. For that.
It was probably a control thing, Peter.
Alright, can you say any of your favorite lines from RoboCop?
Bitches leave.
You're right. And you know what? I now think that that's on a tie for mine. And it's funny, neither one of those lines do we say. Because mine is this. I can't even do this like that. Jake, I'm very disappointed. That comes after 209 bouncing that guy around like a ping pong, you know? Yeah. And the original cut of it, if you get the director's cut, you know, it's like an extra 20 seconds or 15 seconds somewhere. And that scene, for the time, held the record for going in front of the MPGA more times than any other scene. I think he had to recut it 17 times. But the funny thing is that Verhoeven insisted, he said, if you do the long version, it's funnier. It is. It's less violent. Because you see more people scattered, the guy goes around, more people scattered, the guy goes up, right? And then you cut it down, it goes more violent. He was absolutely right. And you see his cut on it. But his cut, Paul, the director's version, that line by Daniel Hurley is even more funny.
Yeah. I just have one thing about the long bitches leave from that scene. Yost Vakano is such a very polite, such a real gentleman. He's lighting the scene, and it just says in the script, bitches, he doesn't know the actress's things. He's, oh, bitches, could you move over?
He called it bitches. Bitches.
for one more.
This is for both Nancy and Peter. What did you like and what did you not like in the RoboCop remake, and what do you think they should have?
I didn't see it, and I have nothing to say about it at all.
I didn't see it, and I think I just didn't like that they remade it, period.
So do you have another question? That has nothing to do with the second, with the remake.
Okay, I have a question then. What is the strangest request you guys have ever gotten from fans? I can see there's a library to go through here.
No, you know, when I was a younger guy, I used to get naked pictures of from fans. You know?
Themselves or you?
Yeah, of them. They go, if this is, you know, it's like live chat or something. You know, they said, this is me, and if you ever want to meet me, call me. So you have a stack of fan mail, and I go to my managers to sign it. You know, there's a picture of this and that, and all of a sudden it's like, scarred me for life. You know? So but I never got, I can't remember any strange requests.
That's not a strange request, but it's one that would certainly qualify it.
Yeah.
But you
Yeah.
can't
I wish I had those pictures now.
So will I.
Somebody brought a bucket, like through the bucket of blood. Tom Dick Harry brought a bucket for me to sign from Carrie, where he dumped the bucket. And they said to me, you know, you should bring these buckets to shows. People would really like you to sign them. I thought, I'm going to need a truck to bring it. But actually, someone brought a naked picture of me.
Oh,
they,
no.
that they had taken, because there really weren't any naked pictures taken on Carrie, even though there was no camera in there. So they pulled it off the screen and he came up to me and just looked down on me and said, "Can you sign this?" I said, "No." But I have one in here.
All right, last one. Did you guys get any souvenirs from RoboCop and stuff? Do you have anything else? No, you've been looking for Robo Teen so that you can buy one of the helmets, right?
I got Ed Newmeyer in touch with him because I want to give it to my 3-year-old kid, and it's very hard. I know when the RoboCop won, I think he has 7 of them left. And, you know, it never occurred to me to take one of the helmets, so I'm trying to get that.
My most prized possession, you know, they always have, when you're making a movie, they make t-shirts or jackets or, you know, this kind of thing, but there was a whole very elite Robo team that
that's right.
painted and did, and they gave me my own Robo team jacket with Lewis on it, and you signed it, I still have it.
You know what? I have that jacket too.
Yeah,
And,
it's a very cool jacket.
very cool. The lightweight,
Yeah.
everything, yeah. I did too. You know, that Robo team was, you know, it was like a Formula 1 group after a while. It's like, and Paul would knock on the door. Paul just said, you know, are you ready? Are you ready? And at the third day, when we finally got the suit in motion, those guys went to John Davison and said, he has to be banned from the Robo Trail. He can't knock on the door. He can't talk to us at all. And they did, and he was good with it. And he had an interim person that would come and check. Because you do it 6.5 hours of makeup, you don't want a director, not going to do it. And he was pretty good at that. He said, okay. He's like sort of saved by his, saved from his own insanity, you know. Recognized that, yeah, that's that I'm not allowed to go there because I'll go nuts.
Very good. Well, Peter, Nancy, thanks so much for coming.
Thank you.